Have you ever looked up into the night sky and wondered how we got here? With over 100 billion Earth-like planets out there in the Milky Way, it seems almost arrogant to think that we are alone in the universe. But at the same time, scientists have been unable to find any real proof of life elsewhere, making the question of how life began on Earth one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in science. In today's video, we're going to discuss the most popular scientific theories that try to answer the question of how life began on our planet. What scientists do know is that the Earth has existed for about 4.5 billion years, but life didn't appear until about 3.8 billion years ago. This means that life on Earth started pretty dang quickly after the planet formed. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Panspermia. One of the more popular theories is called panspermia, which proposes that life did not originate on Earth, but was instead brought here from somewhere else in outer space. While this may sound like a crazy theory, it is actually supported by some pretty big names in science. Both Carl Sagan and Sir Fred Hoyle were proponents of the theory, with Hoyle even coining the phrase, "We are all Martians." To be fair, they weren't referring to the little green men that animate Mars in our collective imagination, but rather to the idea that life originated on Mars. More recently, scientists have suggested that life may have originated in interstellar space itself. This idea is based on the discovery of organic molecules in space, including amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. These molecules are essential for life as we know it, and their presence in space suggests that they could have played a role in the origin of life on Earth. One way these molecules could have made their way to Earth is through meteorites. Meteorites are fragments of rocks that have broken off from other planets or larger bodies in space and crashed into Earth. Scientists have found evidence of organic molecules in some meteorites, suggesting that they could have delivered the building blocks of life to our planet. Another way that organic molecules could have arrived on Earth is through comets. Comets are icy bodies that travel around the Sun in highly elliptical orbits, and some of them pass close enough to Earth to deliver their icy contents to our atmosphere. In 1986, the first unambiguously interstellar object, namely Comet Halley, was discovered. And since then, many more have been discovered, such as Comet 81P, which is one of the most frequently observed comets in history. In 2018, scientists analyzed the composition of Comet 81P and found that it contained a variety of organic molecules, including methane, ethane, propane, butane, and hydrogen cyanide. While this is circumstantial evidence that comets could have delivered organic molecules to Earth, it doesn't necessarily prove that they did. The molecules could have formed on the comet as a result of reactions between the solar wind and the surface ices, rather than being delivered to Earth. Further research will be needed to determine whether comets really did play a role in the origin of life. The RNA world hypothesis. Another popular theory is called the RNA world hypothesis. This theory proposes that RNA, not DNA, was the primary genetic material in early life forms. Unlike DNA, which is double-stranded, RNA is single-stranded. However, RNA can still store genetic information, and it can also catalyze chemical reactions, making it a good candidate for the molecule that gave rise to life on Earth. Proponents of the RNA world hypothesis believe that RNA molecules could have replicated themselves and carried out the functions of life before DNA and proteins evolved. One piece of evidence in favor of the RNA world hypothesis is that all living cells on Earth use RNA as an intermediate in the process of protein synthesis. This suggests that RNA may have had a similar role in early life forms. Another piece of evidence is that some viruses use RNA as their genetic material, which supports the idea that RNA was the primary genetic material in early life. The RNA world hypothesis is still controversial, however, because it is unclear how RNA could have arisen on its own. It is possible that RNA may have been synthesized abiotically under early Earth conditions. This is supported by the fact that several groups of researchers have been able to synthesize RNA molecules in the laboratory using conditions that mimic those on early Earth. However, other scientists argue that the synthesis of RNA is unlikely to have occurred on early Earth and that DNA was probably involved in the process. More research is needed to resolve this controversy and determine whether RNA really was the primary genetic material in early life. The metabolism first hypothesis. A more recent development in our understanding of the origins of life on Earth has led scientists to propose that metabolism may have preceded both RNA and DNA in the development of life. This idea is known as the metabolism first hypothesis. According to this hypothesis, self-sustaining networks of interacting chemical species could have predated both RNA and DNA and provided the foundation for the origin of life. These networks would have been open systems, meaning that they would have exchanged materials with their environment and used energy to maintain their organization. One of the main advantages of the metabolism first hypothesis is that it does not rely on the formation of complex biomolecules such as RNA or DNA. These molecules are difficult to synthesize abiotically, and it is unclear how they could have arisen on early Earth. On the other hand, the metabolism first hypothesis focuses on the interactions between chemical species, which are easier to study and more amenable to experimental investigation. For example, researchers have been able to create self-organizing lipid membranes in the laboratory that resemble the cell membranes of modern cells. These membranes are formed by amphipathic molecules, which have both hydrophilic, water-loving, and hydrophobic, water-fearing regions. The hydrophilic regions of the molecules interact with water, and the hydrophobic regions cluster together to avoid water. This self-assembly of amphipathic molecules into membranes is a key feature of the metabolism first hypothesis. While the metabolism first hypothesis is still in its early stages, it offers a promising new approach to understanding the origin of life. By focusing on the interactions between chemical species, this hypothesis may help scientists unravel the mystery of how life arose on Earth. Deep sea vent theory. Lastly, we're going to look at the deep sea vent theory, which proposes that life on Earth originated in the deep sea, near hydrothermal vents. These are openings in the sea floor that release hot water and minerals from the Earth's interior. The water that comes out of these vents is often rich in chemicals that can support life, such as methane and hydrogen sulfide. The chemicals are produced by the breakdown of rocks and minerals in the Earth's crust. Hydrothermal vents were first discovered in the 1970s, and since then, scientists have found that they support a variety of unique ecosystems. The organisms that live near hydrothermal vents are called extremophiles, and they are able to survive in extremely hot, high-pressure environments that are devoid of oxygen. While these organisms are not directly related to the origin of life, they do suggest that life could have arisen in similar environments on early Earth. Proponents of the deep sea vent theory believe that the chemicals released by these vents provided the energy and building blocks for the origin of life. One piece of evidence in support of this theory is that hydrothermal vents are a rich source of methane and hydrogen sulfide, which are potential sources of energy for early life forms. Another piece of evidence is that the minerals released by these vents could have provided the surface on which early life forms could have assembled. However, there are also some criticisms of the deep sea vent theory. For example, the temperatures near hydrothermal vents are often too high for the kinds of molecules that are necessary for life as we know it to exist. Additionally, the lack of oxygen in these environments makes it unlikely that photosynthesis could have evolved, which means that any life forms near hydrothermal vents would have been limited to chemotrophs. Chemotrophs are organisms that get their energy from the oxidation of inorganic compounds. While chemotrophs are found in modern ecosystems, they are not thought to have been major contributors to the evolution of life on Earth. Despite these criticisms, the deep sea vent theory remains an intriguing possibility for how life could have originated on our planet. So what do we really know? While the question of how life began on Earth is still a mystery, scientists have made significant progress in understanding the conditions that may have led to the origin of life. We know that life on Earth started pretty quickly after the planet formed, and we also know that early life forms were likely very different from the organisms we see today. Theories such as the RNA world hypothesis and the metabolism first hypothesis provide possible answers to the question of how life may have begun. And while there is still much that we don't understand, each new discovery brings us closer to solving this age-old mystery. What do you think about the theories presented in this video? Do you think life originated on Earth, or was it brought here from somewhere else in the universe? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode of our channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.